parte que vamos a tener ahora, ¿vale? Vamos a continuar con tema de la productividad, ¿no? De cómo poder sacar el máximo rendimiento de nosotros mismos, de nuestros equipos y de nuestras organizaciones. Y para ello tenemos al gran experto, ¿vale? Que el pobre llegó el domingo desde Estados Unidos y el jet lag, pues ya sabéis cómo es, ¿no? Pero está también con café a tope, así que nada, un fuerte aplauso, por favor. Justin Hale.
Thank you.
Master Trainer de GTD, un auténtico crack, así que disfrutadlo.
All right, wonderful.
Enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you. I have no idea what he just said, but I hope it was nice. Okay, so thank you for that introduction. Grateful to be here. Like Emily, I flew in just yesterday morning. I have energy for about 1 more hour, and then I'm going to fall asleep. So you're getting my last bit of energy, and I'm grateful to be able to give it to you. Now, what Carlos told me, he said, Spaniards are very busy. We need you to come all the way from the United States to help us with that. I said, I'm happy to, okay? So what I'm going to talk about here is how do you learn to get things done and don't burn yourself out? It's easy to just work all day and all night to get things done. It's more challenging to figure out how to get the right things done and don't stress yourself out so much that you don't want to work anymore. See, we've done a lot of research on this, and here's what we found. We found that the average person receives about 300 pieces of content per day. That's emails, that's notes, that's WhatsApp messages, texts. We also find that you get about an average of 121 emails per day. Now, some of you are laughing. You're thinking, that is so small. I get so much more, right? But this is just an average. We receive about 34 gigabytes of information, things that we're seeing, things that we're hearing, things that we're listening to, just a lot coming in. And we find that in terms of averages, people have hundreds, if not thousands, of unprocessed emails sitting in their inboxes right now. Now, we won't do a competition, but if we did, some of you have an embarrassing number of unread emails sitting in your inbox right now, okay? This is the reality. This is life. So what that means is because this is our day-to-day life, this is what we experience, here is how it feels. And as I'm sharing some of these examples with you, I want you to start thinking about which of these struggles you have, which you struggle with the most. The first big struggle we see is that people say, I have too much to do. The sheer volume of things I have to take care of is burying me. I have too many tasks. I have too much on my plate. Second is people who say, I'm just disorganized. I can't find what I need. I have 100 Post-it notes on my table, and I cannot find where I put that one task. I have so much, and I don't know how to get organized. And I'm always looking for the perfect app that's going to solve all of my problems, right? The perfect productivity app, and yet I haven't found it yet. Some people feel like this is their life. All meetings, no work. Raise your hand if that feels a bit like you. All day, yes, that's right. I'm supposed to go to work, but instead I go to meeting. I don't understand how this works, right? Okay? Some people, this might be the most common, are busy but unproductive. What does this look like? This is, at the beginning of my day, I make a beautiful to-do list of tasks I'm going to accomplish. I have all the motivation in the world, the greatest intentions of doing these things. And then what happens? An emergency comes up. I have to put out a fire. I have to call someone. I have to do all these unplanned things. 5 o'clock rolls around, 6 o'clock rolls around, and my day is finished and I feel exhausted. And I look back at my to-do list and guess what? None of it's done, okay? Busy but unproductive. And the last one, work-life imbalance, okay? So when we're at work, we're worried about things from our personal life, and when we go home, we're thinking about work. We're never focused. We're never present. Okay, so we're going to have a little fun with this. I want you to look at all 5 of these. These are the most common kind of productivity sicknesses that we see, okay? And I want you to think, which one do you struggle with most? Find someone next to you. I'm going to give you 30 seconds and describe which of these you struggle with the most and the impact on your day-to-day life. Okay, 30 seconds. Find someone next to you. Go, share. Okay. Time is up. Time is up. Let me have you finish, please. All right. Now, I'm just curious, how many of you, as soon as you turned to the person next to you, said something like, all of these are my problem? Raise your hand. Yeah, I should have added one. Can't prioritize. That seems like a problem that some of you might have. Okay. So what we find here as you look at these, okay, is that what matters to our organization, right, is that we get the right stuff done, that we're completing what we've committed to. And yet here's the problem. We find that 64% of us aren't finishing our most important priorities day in and day out, even though we feel very busy. This is the issue. This is the business problem we're facing. Not that we don't have good goals, we don't have good plans, the things on our to-do list aren't bad things, it's that we're just starting everything, but we're not finishing, right? And our organization pays us to finish, to complete, to move things forward. And yet, we feel busy all day, and we're starting, but never really finishing the most important things. We also have studied success, not just struggle. What we found, we did a study where we looked at teams and we said, okay, people on a team that you would call a 10, meaning you're a 10 out of 10, you're top performer, okay? You're the best. And we surveyed people on teams and we said, how valuable are 10s on a team? And we found that managers and peers say people that are 10s, that are highly productive, that are very organized, they are 2 to 3 times more valuable to the team than the average employee. So being able, if we go back here, being able to solve these problems, being able to have the skills to stay out of these 5 sicknesses will make us significantly more valuable to our team and organization. Most of us want to be there, but we struggle. We don't have the skills. And that's what GTD teaches, and that's what I want to give you today. We need to be able to have the skills in the face of all that volume of tasks and to-dos, all of that busy calendar. We need to have the skills to be able to manage all of that. What I have found with this skill set that I want you to understand, I'm going to say something kind of bold, and I will come back to it at the end. Your ability to achieve stress-free, or at least lower stress, but stress-free productivity has less to do with the volume of tasks that you have, and it has less to do with the amount of time that you feel like you don't have, and it has much more to do with how you engage with all that you have to do. I'll say that again. Your ability to achieve stress-free productivity has less to do with the amount of tasks you have or the amount of time that you think you don't have. It has everything to do with how you engage. The GTD skills teach you how to engage with your work in a way that lowers your stress level and helps you complete the most important things that you need to take care of. The first thing you have to do is you have to capture. You have to collect everything that owns a piece of your attention. Now, most of us are collecting things, but we're collecting them by accident. Most of you have 4 or 5 email inboxes. You have 2 or 3 notebooks where you take things. You have 4 or 5 different apps where you take notes. And guess what happens? With so many different places where you're capturing inputs, things are falling off. You're missing things. You're forgetting things. You have to be more deliberate about capturing things in a few key places. Second, you got to clarify. Most people procrastinate not because they lack time, but because they lack clarity. Most of you have big, vague projects that you've been asked to do, and yet they sit there and you think, oh, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't have time to think about that right now. When you can get clear on actions, you can get moving. Third, you have to organize things in a way that makes life easy. Most of us don't organize in a way that makes it easy. We organize in a way that makes life harder. The most common example of this is we put everything on our calendars. Why? So I don't want to forget it. But I know what happens, right? The notification pops up and you say, I don't have time for this. So what do? You just snooze it. Of course, because tomorrow you'll get to it, right? And then what do you do the next day when it pops up? You don't have time. You snooze it again and again and again. Our relationship with our calendar is overwhelmed, okay? If you can find ways to use your calendar and lists in a way that makes life easier, you'll be much more organized. Third, you have to reflect and then engage. Most people just act. They wake up in the morning, they start scrolling through their email, and then they feel like they've just been distracted all day. If you can take time to stop, look at your priorities for 5 minutes, you will make better decisions about how to spend your time. And last, the most important, what we found in our research, the most important productivity habit of all of them is people who sit down once a week for 45 minutes to an hour, they look at all of their work, they review it, they clean up, they prioritize. Those people are much more likely to get the right things done. It's about skills, it's not about time. And I'll make one argument too about the time, because I know some people will say, if I just had 26 hours in a day, Justin, I promise you I'd figured it out. And I say, no, you wouldn't. You would just spend the extra 2 hours the same way you spend the other 24, right? Extra time is not what we need. We need different skills. So I want to give you today 2 skills, capture and clarify, to help you transform your work right now. And all of this comes from the last 40 years of coaching and consulting and training that we've done on getting things done. Originally came from David Allen, who worked with executives. And that's what I want to teach you today. I want to teach you a couple quick things. Let me skip past this really fast. All right. So the first that I'm going to teach you is when you use these skills, what will you experience? We studied this. We found that people who use these GTD skills consistently, this was their experience. They were 55 times less likely to say, I start projects that never get finished. That's not a typo. 55 times less likely. They were 13 times less likely to say, I'm not truly present at home because I'm thinking about work. And they were 18 times less likely to say, I feel overwhelmed by all the things that are looming over my head. This is a massive difference. And the people that answer this, they don't have less work. They don't have more time. They just have different skills. And that's what I want to help you with. We found that they also self-reported that they were saving 24 minutes per day by simply doing some of these habits, some of these behaviors. The first one is capture. Now, I want to give you an example of how we typically handle capturing with a funny video. This is a gentleman. His name is Porter. He's like you and I. He juggles a very busy life. He's got a lot on his plate. He's got a lot of to-dos. We're going to just take a quick glimpse into his day. And feel free to laugh. It's kind of silly, but I also want you to ask this question to yourself. What is Porter's productivity system? What are his skills? And how effective are they going to be? I want you to picture Porter here.
Last year, Porter graduated with top honors from his university and landed his first job in product development. He works from home sometimes, but his upstairs neighbors run a tap dancing studio out of their apartment, and so it can be hard to focus. He's looking for a new place. He has a car that is not very reliable, and last week it started making noises like a goat with a cold. He runs a weekly blog about gourmet toast and designer socks. Right now, he is on time for his weekly check-in with his manager.
So good time?
Yeah. Porter, morning. Good to see you. So, Porter, this week's going to be a lot more difficult than last week. I have quite a few things I need you to take care of, okay? First off, if you could get the project one-pager to the printer, that would be good. And then go ahead and order lunch for the Doing Things Once video shoot later today. And ask Jennifer if she can get a reservation at the Grand Potato. That's the one downtown. And then ask the guys at marketing if they can get us the content for the Beans marketing. They have a lot of items. If we don't get that soon, so the last thing, okay, this is why this towards you. You do it first. Got that?
Yep. Yeah.
You sure?
Absolutely. It's going to be great.
Is it going to be great? I don't think anything's going to be. Nothing's going to happen, right? Okay. Now, I know this is kind of silly, but in many ways, we're all kind of like Porter, okay? What's his system? What's his strategy for managing all of his stuff? You can shout it out. What is it? Nothing. He does it just using his mind, right? Now, a lot of you think, well, I'm pretty smart, though. I'm not like Porter. Like, I can remember everything, right? I'm going to put that to the test here, okay? We're going to look at our own current plans and our systems for managing all of our stuff, for capturing all that we have to take care of. I want to ask you a question. I want you to think of something that you've wanted or intended to get done, but you haven't gotten it done. This could be at home, this could be at work, but something you just really had an intention, I want to get this done, and you haven't finished it. I want all of you to just think of one thing in your mind right now. And then I want you to think of this. How long has getting it done been on your mind? Okay? Turn to the person next to you and answer that question. What's one thing and how long has it been? Ready? Go ahead. Can I walk down here? Okay. 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 Let me ask you to please finish. All right, time is up. Time is up. Okay, time is up. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I wanted to come down here because I'd like to hear a few answers to these two questions. If you really liked someone in your group, what they shared, okay, here's what I'm going to do. We'll have some fun with this, actually. I'm going to count to 3, and when I get to 3, I want you to point to the person in your little group whose example you liked the best, okay? 1, 2, 3. Point at that person. Who was that? Yeah? Okay. Okay, I'd like to hear a couple of these. For some of you that were pointed at, I'd like to hear some examples. Over here, what did you share? You're very ashamed? Okay. Okay, very, a lot of 2s there. She has to make 2 phone calls she's been putting off for 2 years, 1 per call, right? Okay, very good. Very good. Thank you for being willing to share. Great. Don't worry, you're not alone. Others, who's willing to share over here that was pointed at? Will you mind sharing your thing that was on your mind? Over here in this group? They're all looking at each other. Who was pointed at? No? Anybody willing to share? Here, raise your hand if you're willing to share something that was on your mind. Yep.
Well, it's silly. Yeah, it's a little bit silly.
Don't worry, other people have really silly stuff. It's not just you. Yeah.
It's been for about 2 months on my mind. So I live in Seattle, and the honorary consul sent me some videos, some documentaries about the Spanish footprint of the Americas. And here in Spain, I've been trying to share with as many people as possible. And there's a group of 3 people that have been for 2 months. Every time that I hear from them, or it's just, okay, tomorrow I will send you. It's been over 2 months, and I just don't send the damn email.
Okay.
It takes no time, it takes 5 minutes, but I always find something else.
For 2 months, you can't send that email.
It's silly, yeah.
It is silly. Yeah.
And I ask myself, I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. We both had to fly all the way from the United States for us to solve this one problem of getting you to send an email. We're going to do it. Yes, we can do it together. Okay, good. Good. Don't worry, that's not silly. I had someone that I was working with once who said, when I asked this question, she said, I have something that's been on my mind. I said, what is it? She says, I need to buy food for my dog. And then I got really afraid to ask the second question, which is, how long has it been on your mind? I was a little bit worried there. Okay. Now, why did I ask this to you? What do I want you to think about? Now, here's the truth. Each of you thought of just one thing, one task, one to-do that you need to take care of, right? But the truth is, most of you have dozens, if not hundreds, of these same types of things, right? At work and at home. You have tasks. You have commitments. Why? Because every single day, you are making commitments to yourself and other people. It's very simple, right? Maybe when you're at home this morning, you pour yourself a glass of orange juice, and you take the last little bit of orange juice, and you say to yourself, I ought to go to the store and buy some more orange juice after work. You just made a commitment to yourself. You get an email from your boss asking if you'll reach out to a client. You say yes, you've made a commitment. Maybe your partner sends you a text and says, hey, will you pick up the kids from school today? You say yes, you've made a commitment. You understand what I mean. Every day we're making lots of these things. They turn from commitments into tasks or to-dos, right? Now, what we find is that the average person has somewhere between 100 and 150 unfinished commitments that are sitting on their plate right now, okay? And I asked you to just think of one. And the problem is that each of these things, each of these commitments owns a piece of your mind, your attention, and focus. Now, how do I know that? I know that because our brains are built in a very interesting way. Your brain is built to forget completed tasks. When you finish one of those 150 to-dos, your brain is great at saying, it's done, it's gone. I don't want to think about it. Here's the downside. Your brain is also built to constantly remind you of all the tasks you haven't finished. I like to describe it like a little annoying monkey sitting in your brain, always saying, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. Okay, now think about that. We've got two facts I just described. First, each person has 150 to 200 tasks they've committed in their whole life. Combine that with the fact that your brain is built to constantly remind you of everything you haven't finished. So what does that turn out to? It turns out to having a lot of stress, a lot of worry, and absolutely no focus. Because your brain is constantly worried about all the things you haven't finished, okay? Let's just think about, I don't know if you've experienced this before. You're middle of the night, you wake up, and you think, oh, I forgot to pick up this item from the grocery store. As if you could do anything about it in that moment, right? You're asleep in your bed, and your brain is reminding you of something in that moment. Or you're sitting in the shower, and your brain reminds you, oh, you forgot to call this person. You can't do anything about it. You're in the shower. And yet that's the way your brain is built. It doesn't worry about when. It wants to remind you always that you need to finish, need to finish, need to finish. I mean, we've been together here for how long have I been up here? 20 minutes maybe? In the last 20 minutes, how many of you have had a thought of something you need to take care of that has nothing to do with my presentation? Be honest, raise your hand. Yeah. Keep your hand up if you've made significant progress on finishing that while I've been here. None of you, no hands. What have you done? You've worried, you've stressed, you've let it take up mental space. This is a life we live. And I thought you were busy, but you have time to stress and worry while I'm up here on stage. This is what we have. So what do we know that we need to grasp in our day-to-day productivity life? What we know is that our minds are for having ideas, not for holding them. Our minds are for having ideas, not for holding them. I put this in Spanish. No, I'm not going to try to say it. Okay? But I did this because this is so important. Your mind was never built to be a storage device. And yet that's what we use it for, to try to hold things and hold tasks and remember important things you need to take care of. There's been a lot of research on this. What the brain science says is that your short-term memory, your working memory, can only hold about 4 things, give or take 2. So maybe 6 at the maximum your brain can hold in terms of things you need to take care of. Your brain is for having ideas. Your brain is built to think, to brainstorm, to be present, to be focused, not to hold things, okay? Now, what we also know is that when your brain is clear, when you have taken those things out of your mind so that your brain is clear and open, guess what happens? You become focused and present. And we know very clearly, the research shows that when your focus is on one thing, your performance level goes like this. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're writing marketing copy, or you're pitching a product to a client, or you're cooking spaghetti with your family, you're reading a book to your child, you're hitting a golf ball, you're playing tennis, it does not matter. If your mind is clear and you're focused on a singular task, your performance on that task goes up. Your quality goes up, your speed goes up, and by the way, your satisfaction goes up in that task. Your mind is for having ideas, not for holding them. So I want to get really practical with this, okay? It's easy to understand in theory, but I want to do it right now. So I want all of you to get out, if you wouldn't mind. If you have paper with you, that's great. But I want you to get out a blank document. If you want to open up your phone and pull up the Notes app or an iPad or a computer, I want everyone to pull up a blank document. Could be a physical piece of paper or a digital document. Everybody get a blank document, something that you can just type a big list on. Just get ready. Just take 10 seconds, because I'm going to have you do this right now. And please do it. Don't start doing email. I'll find out. I'm going to walk around and I'm going to know, okay? We are going to do a mind sweep. I'll do a small version, okay? We'll do a 2-minute version of a mind sweep here. And here's what I'd like you to do. I'm going to put 2 minutes on my phone for a timer. And in 2 minutes, what I'd like you to do is try your best to sweep as many things off your mind that have your attention. And it could be work, it could be home, could be finances, kids, projects, doesn't matter what it is. And I don't want you to try to create a perfect, pretty little to-do list. Instead, just try to get as much out and on the paper as you can. That's all I want you to focus on, okay? And let's just see how many things you can sweep from your mind in 2 minutes. Ready? Go ahead.
Intenté make that bus. Tenemos una cap. Pepile, pero.
Yeah. 30 more seconds. Go for as many as you can.
It is.
Kevin, me das un fin. A Kevin, Eddie. Eddie. Me voy a... Me voy a escenario, ¿vale?
Okay, 2 minutes is up. Pencils down. No cheating. Can't add more. Okay, I want you to take a second and count how many items did you write down. How many tasks or just things on your mind? Take a second. All right, raise your hand if you were able to get at least 10. Okay, keep your hand up if you had 15. Keep some, well, second time, not the first. 10 is smaller than 15, right? Okay, all right. How many, keep your hand up if you had 20. Okay, keep your hand up if you had 25. 25, how many did you have? 26? 26? 26? Anybody have more than 20? You guys all copied each other's list? 26, I'll agree. Anybody have more than 26? You can tell us it's okay. Anybody more than 26? No? Okay, because if I had a trophy for busiest mind, 3 of you would share it, right? You could get that. Give them a round of applause, these 3, for 26. Well done, okay? In English, we would call it the award for most constipated psyche. I don't know what that is in Spanish, but I think you get what I mean, okay? Now, to be fair to them, they probably just type really fast. Most of you have plenty, believe me. If I had my way, I'd sit down with each of you, and if I really wanted to do a full mind sweep, it would take us 45 minutes to an hour for me to really help you get everything that has your attention out of your mind. And yet we walk around with those kinds of busy minds. As leaders, we can't do that. And so the first skill you have to understand is never keep anything on your mind that needs your attention. We often find there's an inverse relationship between how much something is on your mind and whether it gets done. So when something comes to mind, capture it somewhere outside of your mind. The likelihood of it actually getting attention, getting done, increases dramatically when it's pulled out and put in front.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the first skill. You got to capture it. The second is you got to clarify what you captured in a way that actually makes it clear to do. Now, most of us have projects. We have big things we need to take care of. That's what we call projects or initiatives. But the problem is that we try to do a project. You don't do projects. You do small tasks that turn into a project outcome. One of the big reasons why people procrastinate is they have some big project and they say to themselves, I've got an hour to work. I'm going to do project X. And they look at it and they go, I don't even think about project X right now. I'm so overwhelmed by everything involved in that project. And so they push it off. The very best at getting things done, figure out a way to define things down into what's the outcome, but what is the next action I need to take to get to that outcome? What is the next physical, visible activity I need to take to start moving toward that outcome? There are a lot of actions that drive an outcome or a result. But what you need to focus on, what is the first? And what does it look like? So if I were to look at your to-do lists right now, your task lists, I would audit them and try to understand how many of them are in next action format, meaning they use good verbs of behaviorally, what are you going to do? Your list should say things like, I'm going to email so-and-so. I'm going to WhatsApp message so-and-so. I need to draft an article. I need to call this client. Okay, most of us instead have very vague things. And what we want to do is get down to the next action language. So I'll give you some examples. You could transform something vague like team meeting to something more specific like book the meeting room for Monday at this time. You could transform something like HR article, which is very vague, and I'm sure there's a lot of steps required. What's the next action? Draft an outline, okay, for an article on HR trends in Europe. This is a common one in our personal life. Get car fixed. That's a big project. There's probably a lot of actions needed, right? What's the next action? Call Martinez Garage for a quote on car brakes, okay? Or this last one, new Barcelona project. How do we get more specific? Send meeting invites to the Barcelona team. Now, I had someone in one of my sessions once who said, I have something on my mind. I said, what is it? He said, there's a wall in my daughter's room that needs to be painted. I said, how long has it been on your mind? He said, 9 months. I said, why hasn't it been painted? He said, I just need to get the motivation. I just need to get the willpower to go do it. I was skeptical. I said, do you have the paint? He said, no. I said, okay. That's a first problem. I said, why don't you have the paint? He said, I don't know what color it needs to be. And I said, okay, who decides that? He said, my wife. I said, okay, what's the next action? Has your wife? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's it. This woman has a wall in her house that clearly isn't painted. Okay, I know, she knows saying. Okay, that's right. I said, what's the next action? He said, I need to text my wife and ask her what color she wants my daughter's wall to be, right? So we finish our session, we take a break, and this gentleman goes outside during the break, and everybody gets a coffee and those kinds of things. They come back 10 minutes later, and this gentleman comes in, he's holding his phone in his hands, and he goes, I sent a text! And everybody's like, what's up with this guy, right? This is kind of a weird thing. But he was so excited because he'd sent a simple text to his wife asking her what color she wants their daughter's wall to be. Now, why was he so excited? I mean, the wall was still not painted. You tell me, why do you think he was so excited? Progress, he was moving. Would you sit there for 9 months not doing anything, constantly overwhelmed and reminded that you're not done? It's incredibly stressful. In that moment when he started moving, he couldn't wait to keep moving. He wanted to leave and go buy the hay and get moving on it. Humans in motion tend to stay in motion. And in this situation, for this gentleman, which is true for a lot of you, you're not holding back and procrastinating because you lack time. It's more likely that what you lack is clarity. And that's what he needed, was clarity of what the next action was. And there he was, off and moving. So that's the strategy you want to be after. We want to turn piles of unclear stuff like emails and random notes that we have on our desk into things that are much more specific. One of the most common problems people bring to me is they say, I'm struggling to prioritize. And as I ask more questions, as I dig in, what I discover most of the time is not that they don't have the skills to prioritize, it's that they're trying to prioritize unclear stuff compared to unclear stuff. I know it might sound kind of silly, but if I showed you that and said, you tell me what's most important over here on the left. Over here, where should I spend my time? What should I prioritize? You'd go, I don't even know what that is. But when I say, here, prioritize that for me, you're like, okay, I could look at that and I could give you a sense of what might be more important, what might be less important. You cannot prioritize unclear stuff. When you get clear on the next action, your ability to judge what's important, what's not becomes much sharper. Okay? So, once again, I want to do this activity a little bit with you here, okay? A couple minutes ago, we did a mind sweep, right? Where you wrote some things down that have your attention. I want you to just take the top 3, the first 3 that you wrote down, not all of them, just the first 3. And I want you, we'll go back to this, I want you to do this. I want you to transform the top 3 from the current form that you wrote them in, out to the right. I want you to put the very next action. If I ended the session right now and said, you don't have to do anything else except for start moving on those 3 things, what would I watch you do? What is the first thing you would do? And I want you to spell it out in clear language. And then I'm going to have you check it with someone sitting next to you, see you actually made it next action. So take a couple minutes on your own and decide the next action for the first 3 items. Then I'll tell you what will be next.
¿Quién, yo? Estoy mal.
Um, almost. Cease.
Okay, now I find that one helpful way to check to make sure that my lists are as specific as they should be is to show them to a perfect stranger and say, to a perfect stranger, would they know exactly what I need to do? So some of you may not know the person next to you, but find someone next to you, show them your 3 tasks, and I want them to give you coaching. Are they specific enough that you have all that you need to do, and you know all you need to know to say, I know what the next action is. You've been specific enough. Okay, so take a minute or two, turn to the person next to you, and share your 3 items and your next action. Coach each other. Go ahead. 2 minutes.
Idem productivo. Vemos isso. Specie. Sì. Almeno che non mi avete valutato per fare. Scusa. Sì, sì. Va. Boys. It is.
Okay, time is up. All right. Now let me ask a question. We'll have a little fun here, and I'm going to ask a question. So, just for the 3 items that you just discussed with your buddy here, that you had a chance to get off of your mind and to clarify the next action, I'm curious how you feel about those 3 items compared to how you felt about those 3 tasks before you came today. I'm not asking you how you feel emotionally about your whole life. I don't know. Emily's pistachio is pretty good, so you might feel really good about your whole life, but I'm just specifically asking about those 3 tasks. And here's how I want you to tell me if you're going to give me some feedback about how you feel. If you feel worse about those 3 items, which maybe be honest with you. You don't have to tell me what you think I want to hear. If you feel worse about those 3 items, then I want you to do this in a second. If you feel about the same emotionally about those 3 items, then you can give me kind of the sideways, right? If you're feeling even a little bit better about those 3 tasks, you can give me a thumbs up. 1, 2, 3. Where are you at? Show me. Okay? Okay? And it's okay, by the way. Some of you have thumbs sideways, but most of you have a thumbs up, which makes no logical sense because none of those items are finished. But I'd like to hear why. Why do you feel better for majorities? You're more engaged with it. It's clear what you need to do. Clarity, concrete plan, progress, moving something forward. Remember what I said about 30 minutes ago? I said your ability to achieve stress-free productivity has less to do with the volume of tasks and less to do with the limitation on time and more to do with how you engage. Think about what we just did. I didn't change how much stuff you have to do. All I did was change how you engage with that stuff just in 2 simple ways. 1, out of your mind rather than in your mind. 2nd, specific rather than vague. That's all I did. And most of you feel better. That's it. Like engaging with your to-dos and tasks and projects of commitment in a slightly different way. Okay? So I love what David Allen, the author of Getting Things Done, said. He said, if you haven't identified the next physical action required to kickstart it, there will always psychologically be a gap every time you think about some task. There'll always be some sense of, I don't want to think about that. And that's the power of doing what we just did. Imagine if you did that consistently with all of your tasks. Now, I have a few more minutes, so because I'm a nice guy, I want to give you a bonus tip, okay? I want to give you a bonus tip about your calendar and your lists, okay? Now, most people misuse their calendars, okay? They use their calendars as either a rolling to-do list, they put it on there, and then they just keep moving it to the next day. Or they load it so full that they don't leave any time, okay? They load it full with so many meetings, other things, they don't leave any time for flexibility, okay? Most people's relationship with their calendar is they are numb to it, meaning notifications are supposed to notify you, so then you go do something. I'm notified, I'm like, oh, that's a notification. I need to go somewhere or do something. But most people no longer are very sensitive to notifications. They're numb to notifications because they happen so much, and we're so used to just snoozing them or dismissing them, they don't actually notify anymore, okay? That's not the kind of relationship. It feels like we are slaves to our calendars rather than our calendar helping us, okay? What we have found is that people who are more deliberate about what they put on their calendar find that it is so much more valuable for them. The very best at getting things done only put 3 types of things on their calendar. First, time-specific actions. I mean, this is pretty simple, like a meeting or a lunch or something. Yes, you would block that out on your calendar. Second, day-specific actions. Some task you need to do on a day, but it doesn't matter when during the day you do it, but you need to put it on your calendar, so on that day you do it. And third, day-specific information, meaning something you need to know about that's happening that day, but there's not necessarily some action you need to take, right? Like maybe I just want to have a reminder that my manager is out of the office during that day, and that's day-specific information. Guess what's not on here? Random to-dos and tasks I can do at any point, right? And yet that's how we typically use the calendar. When you use your calendar like this and you put everything on it, okay? When it becomes a catch-all, you become numb to it, right? It no longer serves you anymore. So you want to be more deliberate about saying, what should be on my calendar and maybe what should be on a list, okay? Now I want to talk about that for a second because your calendar should be sacred territory. Most people don't think of it that way. Okay, your calendar should be sacred territory. I remember seeing one of the more dysfunctional teams that I've worked with with this experience. They used to talk about how they'd say, "Oh, well, we do try to treat our calendar with respect. We block out, each of us block out time every Friday, big blocks to do work, to finish things." But then they said, we all know that our teammates do that. So when we go to schedule a meeting and we see a big block, we know they're just blocking out time to work and we just schedule meetings over it. It's like, okay, they needed me more than I thought. This was like some serious dysfunction, right? Okay. Your calendar needs to be protected. It needs to be sacred territory. Don't just put whatever on it and don't just say yes to everything. Okay. There's a number of things, most things actually, shouldn't be on your calendar, but should be on lists. I think most of us have a sense that a to-do list is a good thing. Most people have some type of task list, but most people misuse their lists as well. Most people decide to have everything on one big list. Okay? Is it kind of, yeah, I did this on purpose. This is what happens. Remember what I said? 150 to 200 next action? You put it all on one big list, and what ends up happening is you spend all your time scrolling and scrolling, trying to find the right thing, right? Imagine, like think about, and think about this meeting. Like, we're taking a break, and let's say we had a 15-minute break, and you stepped out. And during that 15-minute break, you wanted to take some time to get something done, maybe make some phone calls. If you had one big list, you'd spend your whole 15 minutes scrolling through trying to find phone calls you could make rather than actually making any phone calls. So the way that we organize our to-dos actually sets us up to spend more time scrolling and less time doing. So what we found is that the very best at getting things done organize their lists by context. That means the tool, the situation, or the location where the work needs to get done. So lists like at home, errands, work computer, phone calls, agendas for maybe your manager or people who report to you. You have specific lists based on where that work gets done. We find actually improves your efficiency dramatically. Like I said, you stepped outside and you had about 15 minutes and you thought, I want to get some things done. Imagine if you just had a little list called calls, and you could open up that list, and in 10 seconds, you could see the possible calls you need to make. You choose one, and you make a phone call. You spend more time doing and less time scrolling and sifting and looking through all the things you could do. Okay? This is a simple skill that has a massive impact on actually getting the right stuff done. And by the way, when it comes to lists, you can use the skill at any tool that you use. You could use it in an iPhone notes app. You could use it on the simplest productivity apps out there. It's not about the power of the app. It's about the power of the behaviors and the habit. So we talked about a lot of things. I talked at the beginning about how we're all busy but unproductive. We're overwhelmed. We've got a lot to do but not enough time. But the right habits and skills make all the difference. And when we do those, even if we're not perfect, but if we can tweak some of the ways we engage with all the stuff we have to do, we could dramatically reduce our stress and increase our productivity. But for me, the best part about these skills is not necessarily that I just get to do more work. Yeah, sometimes I get that benefit, but the part of GTD, these skills I like the most, is it helps me meet intentions with delivery. How often have you intended to be home early enough to make your son's football game? How often have you intended to finish that project for your spouse that you know is meaningful? Now, how often have you intended to take that weekend holiday with your family and you just haven't been able to get to it? Getting things done doesn't just help you do more, it helps you do more of what means most to you. It helps you be more of the person that you want to be, whoever that is. It helps you be in the driver's seat. You get to say what you do. And it helps you feel okay about the things that you decide, I'm not going to do that right now. And I'm not going to feel stressed about it because I know all the commitments I've made and I'm going to choose to focus on this right now. And it's okay because everything else is nicely well organized and I can focus without any stress. That's the goal, is helping us be more appropriately engaged with our work and with our life and being more of the people that we want to be. These skills are about freedom and helping you accomplish what's most important to you. So thank you for your time. I hope that's helpful. Close. Yeah, we have a couple minutes from Q&A. For Q&A, while other folks are getting ready, I'm happy to answer any questions. Any questions people have? Yeah. Do I schedule time just to do that? Yeah. So he's asking about, do I schedule time to kind of plan, prioritize, absolutely. So there's two times for me. And it doesn't actually take, if you do it consistently, it doesn't actually take that much time. In the morning, instead of opening my email first, which we all do probably, right? You wake up and you're like, first thing you open your eyes and you start scrolling through email in your bed. I know you do it, okay? instead of that, what I do is I take 2 minutes. I look at my calendar for the day and I say, what do I absolutely have to do? When are my meetings? When are my calls? And then what I do is I look at my to-do list and say, when I'm not in a meeting or I'm not on a call, what to-dos, what 2 or 3 things do I absolutely have to finish today? That's how I plan my day. And it doesn't take more than 5 minutes. And then once a week, I take an hour. Could be a Friday morning, could be a Sunday afternoon, and I will by myself sit at my computer and I'll just kind of clean up. I've got some things here, let me clean them up. I'll process my email. Believe it or not, I'll get my email inbox to 0. You're like, oh, I know, you can do it. Believe it or not. And then I'll plan out my week. So morning planning is very brief, but it's consistent. And then once a week, I do something called a weekly review that just is life-changing. So,
And another was that, do you recommend the time blocking agenda for teams?
For teams, time blocking. Here's the principle for me about time blocking, because it can be very valuable. Most people don't honor time that they blocked. If you're going to block out time to do a specific task or a type of task, if you keep that commitment, then that's great. But if you have a habit of just letting other things get scheduled, then I wouldn't do it, because you develop this lack of trust with that block. So I think it can be helpful, but you have to honor it. It's a great question. Yeah, thank you. Good. Other questions? Happy to answer. And I'll stick around too afterwards if people have other questions, but questions that you have? Things you're curious about? You're like, thanks a lot. Who is this guy? Stressed me out with all this time I have to do now. Yes.
How do you manage, maybe not every day, but when you find out almost every day that your calendar today does not look like as yesterday, because suddenly 3-4 guys have put just thrown meetings into your agenda.
3-4 guys. So same 3 or 4 guys. They're the worst. Yeah.
Then you say, oh, now I have to rethink again.
Yes.
If this is a priority or not, if I have to go. So it's every day.
It is.
And I don't know, maybe 3 hours per day, an exercise of, do I have to go to this meeting? Not. Should I reject it or not? So it's not only about organizing yourselves, it's about how do you honor your calendar when you have a lot of people just putting meetings in your agenda.
Yes, I know. That's so true. And I can hear people who relate to that. There's two things that come to mind. The first is, what I like about GTD, unlike some other methodology, sometimes they tell you, you need to plan your priorities ahead of time and you always know what they are. But you're making a good point, which is life. Priorities change. So you need to have a system of lists and calendars that are flexible so that you can always look at what you committed to and make changes. I think that's important. The second thing, though, I worked with a team once who had a similar problem. They said, someone will send me meeting invites and I go to the meeting and I'm sitting in the meeting thinking, why am I here? Yeah, right. And so I sat with the leader and he saw everyone nod their heads and they realized how much time they were wasting. Not that every meeting was a waste, but that not every person needed to be in all those meetings. And so he set up a new cultural norm where he said, I'm going to give you permission that if you are a meeting creator, I'm going to require you, if you invite someone, you have to put in the meeting invite the specific reason that person is needed. If you are a meeting invite receiver, if that is not in the meeting invite, I give you permission to decline the invite. So now what are we doing? We're putting responsibility on the people making a meeting to be much more careful about who am I inviting and valuing my colleague's time. And I'm giving the other person the ability to say, if I'm not needed and you haven't let me know, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to respectfully decline. And it was the whole team's eyes lit up and they said, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And they emailed me months later and said, we're saving a ton of time because we have this new cultural dynamics. You have to be willing as a leader to tell people you need to value each person's time. If they don't have to be in the meeting, don't invite them. And if you haven't been clarified why if you're needed, I'm okay with you declining. So that was one example that I found to be really valuable, because you're right. If you go into meetings constantly wasting time, then you're not going to get the work done. So thank you. Good question. Good. Do we have time for more or are we done? One more question. It's better be a good one. You get the last one. And then any final questions?
Let's talk about multitasking. Peaceful.
What about multitasking? Yeah. Yes. Great question. So, there is a lot of research that says it's not a good thing to try to do multiple tasks at once. Yes. But within the GTD methodology, what we teach is that there are kind of 3 modes of working. Okay. And there's time that you need to spend doing planned work. That's just doing work, writing that proposal, attending that meeting, making that phone call, making the slide deck, work. Then there's time you need to spend doing unplanned work, emergencies, right? We all know you're going to have to spend time on it. Okay. That's one of the types of work. And the third mode is clarifying your work. What that means is taking all the stuff that's coming in, like in your email inbox, reading the emails, and turning them into this work, right? You read an email and the email says, blah, blah, blah. You say, oh, well, the work I need to do is I need to call this client. Now this becomes this kind of work. So we have to spend time doing planned work, spend time doing emergencies, and spend time defining our work or clarifying our work. Here's the problem. Most people try to do these types of modes all at once. What does it look like? I'm sitting in this mode. I'm doing work. I'm writing this proposal. It's so important. And then guess what I'm doing also? I'm leaving my email inbox open with dings, dings, dings. So then I'm kind of writing it, and then all of a sudden I kind of hop over here and I start in this mode and I'm answering emails. And then I get a phone call and there's an emergency and I hop into this mode. And then I kind of come back and I get back an email again. Guess what's not happening? This work over here isn't happening, okay? So you're going to need to spend time during your day in all three of these modes. But when you try to do them all at once, you do all of them poorly, right? So my suggestion to people is, if you're going to spend an hour writing the proposal, then turn off anything that would tempt you to go into those other modes. Close off your email just for an hour. I'm not trying to be extreme. I'm not saying don't do email for a whole day. I'm saying turn it off for an hour, focus, and when the hour's over, step out of this mode, and you can step back on the email mode. Do that for an hour, and then if emergency pops up, you can go into that for a little while. And when you do them in modes, you'll be able to do all of them at a much better pace. You'll be able to focus. It's just trying to do all of these things at once sub-optimizes the way to be work. Yeah. Great question. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks.